Oh, hello. Happy Saturday to you. Yes, Sports Wrap is live on StreamYard this evening, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. So make sure you head on over to our channels there, and you can watch the whole show later and at your convenience. But it's good to be with you this evening. We got a lot to do. Obviously, Michigan State got out to another fast start. And again, I think everybody needs to pump their brakes. We'll talk about that coming up.
Reporters and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Something else that we're going to bring up as we go along. We're going to talk about the value of sports and the importance of it, especially after events of 9/11. Of course, celebrating the 20th remembrance of that today. And we're going to preview the Michigan game coming up also. And then we got some playoff baseball we're going to talk to you about. So that's all coming up on the show, 6 to 7 o'clock here on WJR. So stay tuned with us. We'll be starting here in just a moment.
The Evangelical Lutheran Church of America is installing its first openly transgender bishop. The Reverend Megan Rohrer will oversee nearly 200 congregations in Northern California and Northern Nevada. The installation today at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. Rohrer, who uses the pronoun they, previously served as pastor of Grace Lutheran Church in San Francisco and a chaplain coordinator for the city's police department. A Texas preschooler dies of COVID within hours of getting a fever.
4-year-old Kaylee Cook was enjoying an evening with her family just hours before becoming the youngest child to die from the virus in Galveston County. Her mother telling the Houston Chronicle she was perfectly fine before developing the fever, and then COVID took her so fast. Kaylee passed away just one day after her mother, brother, and 5-month-old sister were infected. The family is currently quarantined at home. Health officials are unsure of where Kaylee contracted the virus. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
Disney plans to open the rest of this year's films in theaters only.
You might call it the Shang-Chi effect.
You got this.
That smashing box office turnouts prompting Disney to forego the dual pandemic release to theaters and streaming services. Instead, Disney's remaining 2021 films will open only in theaters. Among the films headed for the box office are the animated feature Encanto.
I am just as special as the rest of my family.
And the much-awaited Steven Spielberg remake of West Side Story. So get your tickets if you want to be the first to see the new Disney releases. Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
The other Disney films set for release this year are Eternals, The Last Duel, The King's Man, and Ron's Gone Wrong. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News.
WJR Traffic and Weather first.
Keep in mind that 75 is closed for weekend construction going northbound between 8 Mile and 14 Mile. That's going to last until 5 a.m. on Monday. Southbound 75 between Square Lake and 8 Mile also closed until Monday morning. Elsewhere, you have a crash blocking both shoulders westbound Davison at the Lodge Freeway, and you have a crash on the left shoulder, 96 eastbound, past the Davison. Also keep in mind that you have some stop-and-go traffic southbound US 23 between Thompson Road and Torrey Road. I'm Chris Harden, WJR Traffic and Weather First.
Partly cloudy early tonight. Those clouds build in late, maybe a stray shower thunderstorm. Overnight low very warm to around 70. And then tomorrow, partly sunny, slight chance for shower thunderstorm. Afternoon high 87. Stray to scattered storms Sunday night. From the Weather Channel, I'm Jeff Eno on News Talk 760 WJR.
Custom built for Detroit. News Talk 760 WJR. News Talk 760 WJR. Custom built for Detroit. It's time for Sports Wrap on 760 WJR.
All right, this is the wrap on 760 WJR.
To a car phone we go. Dave, thanks for hanging on. You're on 760.
Gentlemen, and Steve and Dan, you got the chemistry. It's cooking.
Presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sports app today. FanDuel, more ways to win.
Are you calling us from your office?
I'm doing SportsCenter tonight with
Are you really?
Dan Patrick. Yes.
I'm very impressed. By the way, give Dan our best. He's a good man. And
I will. Hey, Dan, Chuck Swirsky says hi. This is the best sports wrap has ever been, in my opinion.
Now, here's your host, Chris Renwick.
Oh, happy Saturday to you. Week 2, college football. And look, I want to start with the Spartans. All right. I had a concerned Spartan fan call me today after the game. And he said, look, I'm still a little worried about this team. And we were talking, and I think that a little bit of his concerns are unfounded. Some of them are legitimate. But I think that what we saw today, especially from the progress that was made from week 1 to week 2, I thought Peyton Thorne did a nice job, especially throwing the ball down the field. I thought he hit, Jaden Reed a couple of times deep, and they were just perfect passes. Perfect pass. Should have had another one in the end zone. Deep pass, and he's just dropping him into the bucket. It's impressive. It's impressive for a guy who has very few starts under his belt. His second start this season, obviously. First start at Michigan at Spartan Stadium. I thought Peyton Thorne played a nice game. I think the offense is tuned up pretty good. Now, they were playing a little bit of musical chairs on the offensive line. That can be tough. Obviously, they're still trying to figure out what exact combination they like. Part of that, guys were getting banged up a little bit, and so they were making moves. But I think the offense is well far ahead than I thought they'd be at this point. And of course, you look at the way Kenny Walker runs. I mean, he's a bully when he runs the football. And so you didn't see a lot of him today, but you didn't need to. All right. You're playing against Youngstown State. All right. So Spartan fans back in Spartan Stadium, you leave there with a resounding win. It's good stuff. But let's just, and this is where I kind of told my buddy. I said, I think that this defense, I don't fear this defense. This defense, I think actually, I'll tell you, I think this defense has some of the same issues that Michigan's defense has. Like, I don't think that they have enough up front to where they're going to cause a lot of disruptions. And I know they play a 4-2-3 defense now, meaning you got 4 D linemen, you got 2 linebackers, and you've got 4 DBs. And so it's a little bit different, but you get a lot more action from your secondary, and it allows some of the guys in the front 7 to just get after it a little bit. But this defense, make no mistake, is not the vintage Spartan defenses of yesteryear. And maybe they will be. But I think you got to look at the 2 opponents that they've played to start this season. And I think you need to start, just being prepared. And hopefully they progress to a place where it won't really matter. But they've got some nice pieces on that side of the ball too. When I looked at this game, when I watched this game, I thought Peyton Thorne played well. I thought some of his shorter intermittent passes were a little off the mark. I thought he had a couple of guys open and he just missed them. Had a little problem on the run. But that will come with time. So for me, when I'm talking to my guy, I'm like, look, it's all right. Pump the brakes. Everything is going to be okay. Mel Tucker has this thing rolling far smoother than I thought he would at this point. So you got to give it up to Coach Tuck. Again, I think a lot of the problems with the Spartans lie on the defensive side of the ball. And that is just going to be something where you've got roster turnover of nearly, damn near 50% of this roster is brand new. I mean, my goodness. You got to give them a little bit of time to gel. You got to give them a little time to figure out how to work together in game situations. So I wouldn't worry about the Spartans. I actually think they're in a much better spot now than I thought they'd be preseason. I do. And I think that they're only going to get better. I think they're going to play, I think the football, the brand of football that they play, and you got to give Mel Tucker a lot of credit here, because the way that they play, the way that they The way that they rally, the way that they, I don't know, it's the foundational building that's happening. That's Mel Tucker. That's the Mel Tucker effect. So you got to give it to him because that's good stuff. Mel Tucker has these guys dialed in, and I think that's cool. So, with all that being said, now you look to next week. Now you got to take a road trip down to Miami. Miami got bullied around last week. Hey, Jason, do me a favor. I didn't see the Miami score this week today. Have they even played yet? I should probably have looked this up. Let me look it up. They got bullied in week 1 and against Alabama, which shocker.
Excuse me. They're playing tonight at home against Appy State.
Yeah. All right. So that's a 7:00 kick. So they haven't played today. So they got a 7:00 kick tonight against Appalachian State. And so, okay. So they'll go 1 and they'll be 1-1 by the time next week rolls around. I think that'll be kind of the Spartans' first test. Look, I don't think Miami's any good. I don't think they're going to make any noise in the ACC. But that'll be a pretty nice road game for them to get involved with. I think that's a nice kind of transition into once you get into your well, not really, because Michigan State plays Nebraska, who stinks. And then you got Western Kentucky, and then you get into your Big Ten slate, and then you go Rutgers and Indiana. I mean, this team could be undefeated going into the Michigan game. But I think the Miami game next week is the one you got to watch. Miami next week, it will be one of their, it'll be their first test on the road against a decent team. Decent. You know, I look at the two opponents the Spartans have played, and they both stunk. I mean, heck, you look at Youngstown State, 26th ranked offense in the FCS, and they're the 85th defense in the FCS. I mean, okay. I'm not surprised that the Spartans pop them for 40 plus. So, with all that being said, just pump the brakes, Spartans. I know there are a couple of you out there that are still, I know, you want this thing to get back on track. I think it's gonna. I really do. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how next week goes, because next week will be their real first test. All right, coming up next, obviously today being remembering the last 20 years and obviously the horrific events 20 years ago today. And I want to talk about what sports means in tragedies like that, because they play an important role. Yes, we can sit here and knock around players and nitpick everything that they do, but sports holds an important part in our community. So we'll talk about that coming up next here on Sports Wrap.
Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Sir Mix and Match a Lot coming to you live from Hungry Howie's, where I'm talking famous flavor and mixing and matching any two items on the Hungry Howie's mix.
But I think when you start looking at what happened 20 years ago and the way that sports has, in times of turbulence, in times of turmoil, in times where you know you needed a little bit of a pick-me-up, it's been there. Sports has always been there. And there were when you start looking at what baseball did, what the NFL did, it was an important kind of next step that we all could look to, you know, something in the middle of, you know, in the beginning of September, baseball's winding down. You know, the NFL's just starting, and those things were able to go on. People were able to go to games, and in a time when there was a lot of uncertainty and we didn't know what was coming our way next. So I think today when we reflect on 9/11, the events of 2001, I think it's important to remember the role sports played. So we'll talk about that coming up next, because when you think about how the country rallied around, these teams, these leagues, and just trying to feel some sense of normalcy, I think that's pretty important. So we'll talk about that coming up next.
Trimming in areas with recurring outages. We're investing an additional $70 million, putting 30% more workers on the job, and doing it without an impact on customer bills. Where tree trimming is complete, reliability has improved an average of 60%, and we're committing more than $1 billion a year in infrastructure upgrades, including smart technology for a stronger grid. We're going to do whatever it takes to provide you with more reliable energy.
DTE.
A message brought to you by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The COVID vaccine is safe, effective, and trusted by experts. Find yours at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine or call 211.
You take steps to stay healthy when at the pharmacy picking up vitamins or filling a prescription.
May I help you?
Take another healthy step right now and ask the pharmacist how Prevnar 13 can help protect you from pneumococcal pneumonia, a potentially serious bacterial lung disease. If you're 65 or older, a trip to the pharmacy is a lot more pleasant than a trip to the hospital because of pneumococcal pneumonia. Help protect yourself with the Prevnar 13 pneumococcal 13 valent conjugate vaccine, diphtheria CRM 197 protein. Prevnar 13 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 13 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Prevnar 13 does not protect against all strains of the disease. Stop by the pharmacy today and ask about Prevnar 13. Learn more at Prevnar13.com. Don't get Prevnar 13 if you have had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with a weakened immune system may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-866-694-9300 or visit Prevnar13.com.
Now back to more Sports Wrap. Presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sports app today. FanDuel, more ways to win. Here's Chris Renwick.
It being 9/11, and obviously, watching all of the ceremonies this morning. I mean, it's still so incredibly heart-wrenching. Hearing these families, saying their names out loud, and I mean, I was emotional this morning watching the coverage. It was something. But look, I think when we start looking at history, and I'm not even going to go deep into history, but when we start looking at the way that teams, the way that organizations, the way that athletics, the way sports can play and impact our society, both good and bad, but in this case, good. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. I mean, Jason, look, I know you're and Jason Fissler with us this evening. You're obviously a big sports guy.
Yes.
And when you look at, let's start with this. How about you go down to New Orleans? And you saw what the Saints did during Hurricane Katrina,
right? Turning
their facilities, their stadium, into a staging area for people to come and stay, and while they picked up the pieces of their lives. And then you then remember back to 2001, right after 9/11 happened. The very similar things were happening with the Mets. They turned their whole area into a staging area at Shea Stadium. And when sports finally got back into the mix, when sports finally started, resuming, because everything came to a grinding halt. But when everything started coming back, there was a sense of relief. Like there was a little bit of weight off our shoulders, I felt. And I know a lot of people say, look, this is just sports. It's just sports. It's just sports. And yes, it is. It's just sports. And sports is supposed to be entertaining. It's supposed to, whenever I go to a game, whenever I'm watching a game, I'm not worried about anything. I'm not worried about what's going on in politics. I'm not worried about what's going on here or there. I'm watching a game. I'm enjoying something. It's my entertainment. And so I think that when you look back on 9/11, when you look back at the Boston bombings, you got Big Papi out there. This is our bleeping city. When you see what happens when natural disasters strike like Hurricane Ida, Hurricane Katrina, you see the impact that organizations, that sports has on communities. And I think it's a special thing.
Yeah. And it showed as soon as we did get back to sports, then just like now, a crowd, well, first of all, in 9/11, having the crowds back is also telling the people that do not like us that we're still going to have public assemblies. This is what we do. We're Americans. We're free. We saw it last year with the pandemic when nobody was in stadiums. Right. And I'm watching college football today, and I'm seeing these big crowds. We're seeing a big crowd. It's incredible. Spartan Stadium again today, and it's great to see. But yeah, it's for us to go back to our normal way of living, especially back in 2001. That's telling these people, hey, you can't stop our. Now they did change our way of life for sure, and that's never gonna. That's never gonna. They did, but we have to continue to just go on as we normally would, as we have now during with this pandemic. So, but yeah, when sports came back, and I think it was that weekend of 2000 or that Tuesday was it that weekend that we came back to sports.
Yeah.
And George W. throwing out the first pitch, and just saying, hey, we're united, and so.
Yeah, I find it to be incredibly compelling. And again, look, and this is it's funny because this is why I don't get all bent out of shape when people, when people say fair weather fans. When you're a fan of a team, you don't have to like what they do, and that's okay. And if you don't want to follow a team because you think they stink and it's not worth your time, I don't have an issue with that. But in this case, none of that mattered.
No.
None of it. It was, we are going to go back to doing what we do. We are going to go back to playing these games. We're going to go back to inviting our fans back in these stadiums. We're going to go back to giving these people what they deserve, what they need right now. And I find that incredibly compelling. I find that incredibly admirable about sports. And obviously you can, look, there are a lot of, there has become more politics in sports. There's things like that have seeped into the game, but at a time of turmoil, at a time of crisis, sports can be so powerful in that way. And it was certainly that way back in 2001 after the attacks in New York, in Pennsylvania, and at Arlington at the Pentagon. And so I didn't look. We want to have fun on this show. We are going to have fun. We're going to talk about, we got playoff baseball in Metro Detroit. I don't know if you knew about that, but we're going to talk about that coming up next. And we're going to preview the Michigan game coming up at 7:00. But I think today it's important to recognize the role sports has in our lives. And it's okay if you haven't been to a Pistons game in a decade because they stink. It's okay. It's okay. And it's going to get better, I promise. But in this situation, when you look back, when we're starting to, think about that day 20 years ago today, and then you start to think of, geez, all the uncertainty that we experienced over the next few days, and just nobody had answers. Nobody knew what was happening. You started to understand what was happening, but nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew if something else was coming. We didn't know what was going on. It was a very, we were in this kind of state of flux, and we just didn't have a direction. And then finally, when sports came back, it was like, here we go. Let's get people in the seats. Let's get people, eating some hot dogs at a ball game, and let's go.
Yeah, and
I
the
think that's
president saying, go out and buy a suit, go out to dinner, live your lives, which was good advice.
It's great advice. So again, I think that's cool, and I'll tell you, and obviously, President Bush throwing out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium was incredible. When you start, and I'm thinking of things that happened around that time. I think it was, who was it in that Mets game? Who were they playing? It was like a week and a half later. Oh, you know who was it? It was Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza hit a late inning home run. Geez, I can't remember who they were playing. I want to say it was like the Braves. But he hit this, and it was just, and the place went bonkers. And then the other thing I think of in instances like this, again, it wasn't 9/11, but it was another terrorist attack in Boston at the Boston Marathon. Big Papi comes out to a packed house at Fenway and was very explicit in what he said. This is our bleeping city. This is Boston. This is our city. And the place went bananas. And so, again, this is what sports can do. This is what sports can do for an entire nation, an entire group of people, to just say, okay, everybody exhale, and now let us resume something normal. And I thought that's something else to keep in mind today. All right, coming up next, we've got playoff baseball in Metro Detroit. And we're going to talk about it. It's championship weekend out at Jimmy John's Field up in Utica. So we're going to talk about that next coming up, because they've got some very competitive baseball going on. And we got a game coming up at 7 o'clock tonight, first pitch, 7:05 as a matter of fact. So we're going to talk about that coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Chris Renwick here on SportsWrap, right here on WJR. Week 1 of the NFL season is finally here, and our fridges are stocked and our couches are fluffed. And now all you got to do is log on to FanDuel Sportsbook to claim your risk-free bet. That's right. FanDuel is giving all customers a risk-free bet just in time for Week 1 of the NFL season. And look, I love betting on FanDuel Sportsbook because there are a lot of ways to win. And plus, the app's easy to use, and when you win, they'll pay you in as little as 24 hours. So use your FanDuel Sportsbook account on any Week 1 game. Bet the money line, take the over-under, throw a little action on a prop bet, or build the same game parlay bet. There are so many ways to play, and there are so many ways to win. And if you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook, sign up today using my promo code Renwick, that's RENWICK, to also receive a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code Renwick.
21 and older and present in Michigan. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Maximum refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help.
The pandemic's reminded us we live in a sea of airborne germs that can assault us with every breath. Your nose is the body's first line of defense by helping filter out allergens, bacteria, and viruses before they reach your lungs. But like any air filter, the more clogged up it gets, the less it works. So how do you clean your nose? I'm Martin Hoke, and I didn't invent nasal irrigation. The neti pot's been around thousands of years. But I did invent Navage to make cleaning your nose easy. Navage uses powered suction to flush out mucus and germs that cause congestion, or worse, can make you sick. Over 2 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier without drugs. Navage has over 70,000 online reviews averaging 4.7 stars because it works and it's easy to use. Go to Navage.com or find Navage at Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Now available with eucalyptus for a spa-like experience. Navage. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Right now, people are home with their pets more often, and I think especially with the shedding, they're more cognizant of what's going on and that it's an actual issue.
Olive got some skin issues. He gets really going and scratching.
Excessive shedding, a lot of just scratching and itching.
Digging, scratching, and itching, and biting. On top of that, he was starting to get black buildup in his ears.
DINOVITE.com.
I just heard the Dynavite commercial so many times that I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And I ordered it and tried it, and it worked.
We started Dynavite, and in our first stock, we noticed a difference, especially with the shedding.
Within 3 weeks, he's not scratching and itching, and he's an all-around happier dog.
We got 4 dogs, all different ages, all different sizes, and they've all just responded really well to the Dynavite, and they all love it.
We will be using Dynavite for life.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
We order our Dynavite from Dynavite.com. DINOVITE.com.
Attention, fellow baby boomers. Guy Gordon here, speaking to you today on behalf of my longtime friends at Senior Health Medicare. I trust my expert friends so much, they recently assisted my parents. WJR will continue to inform our listeners.
What's up, Andy?
How you doing?
How are you?
Fantastic.
Nice to see you.
You too. You're pretty busy these days, man. What don't you do?
It's, and I'm finishing my basement. So who knows? I don't know what I have time for. Anyway, it's good to see you. We'll get to you here in just a second. All right.
Okay.
All right. Hold tight for me.
Expense policies. Thousands of WJR listeners have already received savings by just taking the time to speak with Senior Health Medicare. Your review only takes minutes for them to assist you like they assisted my family. Let Senior Health Medicare become your local experts. Visit seniorhealthmedicare.com today for your no obligation review. Call 248-230-8595. That's 248-230-8595.
You may come across a tick this summer, and here are some facts that you should know. There are 500,000 new cases of Lyme disease in the U.S. every year. Even if you receive a negative test, you may still have Lyme disease. Not everyone gets a rash after a tick bite, and nearly 20% of people develop chronic symptoms such as severe headache, fatigue, brain fog, and neurological problems. To learn more, visit the Global Lyme Alliance at gla.org. That's gla.org.
Now back to more Sports Wrap. Presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sports app today. FanDuel, more ways to win. Here's Chris Renwick.
All right, it's championship weekend out at Jimmy John's Field, United Shore Professional Baseball League. We got playoffs. It's underway. We got another game. We got first pitch coming up here in about a half an hour, almost exactly. Our good buddy Andy Appleby joins us this evening. Of course, he's the head man of all the operations out there. Andy, it's good to see you.
You too, Chris.
So, look, I know this is a big weekend for you guys, obviously, championship weekend. And I think we already had a game in the books. Yes, it was the Beavers over the Woolly Mammoths. That went to extras, 9-5, and then we got a game coming up here in about a half an hour.
That's right. The Beavers take on the Diamond Hoppers. The Diamond Hoppers got a bye to this game tonight. Winner of tonight plays the Unicorns tomorrow at 1 o'clock for our USPBL championship.
This is when you start looking into a lot of what you guys do out there and the talent that you guys have. This weekend that you've kind of built up over the last number of years has become an incredibly competitive weekend for a lot of these teams.
It really has. So much emotion here, Chris. Not only are the teams, their players all together for that 4 or 5 month period, but in many cases, a lot of these players might be throwing their last pitch or they're hitting, having their last at bat. So there's a lot of tears in the locker rooms after these games because they're one and done, kind of like the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously these guys take it incredibly seriously because there's a championship on the line here. But what are some of the things that these players look forward to, especially at during championship weekend?
Well, the baseball itself is fantastic. Again, very, very upbeat. Lots of good play, lots of great hitting, pitching. Whereas in a lot of our games throughout the season, I think people tend to watch the game, but they also have fun on the playground and get their Dippin' Dots and hot dogs. They'll still do that a little bit now, but it's amazing how many people stay in their seats to watch the games because, again, so much emotion. And it's really fun when the fans are actually on the edge of their seats.
All right, so the winner tonight will take on the Unicorns tomorrow, 1:05 first pitch from Jimmy John's Field. Obviously, you guys have been able to navigate everything recently very well. I mean, the way that you and other big time sports operations have been able to to follow all these health protocols and making sure that people are safe and still being able to provide a good time, I think is incredibly, I think it's amazing, all of the logistics that go into it, but I think you guys do a fantastic job at it too. So talk to me about what this time has been for you guys and just making sure that everybody has been safe when they get out there.
Yeah, so this season was obviously a much, much better season than last year. We actually played all the games last year, Chris, but we only were able to have 100 people, up to 500 people on our last weekend. And what I missed the most were the kids having fun and it being in the playground. Even last night, despite the fact it was a wonderful game and completely sold out, the playground was so full and 20, 30 kids deep in the wiffle ball field, every inch of the playground taken up. And that's what I really, really missed last year. And that's the reason I love this so much. Everybody asks me, how can you possibly come and how can you do 75 games? And I tell them, I can't imagine I want to be anywhere else. I mean, it's fun to put on a show for 3,000 or 4,000 people every night that love it and really, really appreciate it and have a great time. I mean, who wouldn't want to host a party like that every night?
Andy says 75, make it 150. Let's do this thing. Look,
one other thing, Chris, that it's important to note is that we really try to make it as big time as possible for these players. We've got a great championship celebration on a stage similar to what they might do in the MLB or NBA finals. And we give every player a championship ring with their name on it.
My gosh, look at that.
Unicorns ring from the first year. So there's, again, a lot. Anytime you're talking about playing for a championship ring and a title, these kids go even harder than usual.
Well, and look, I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, you've got players that have played in your league that have gone on to play professional baseball. I mean, you got players in the league right now. So this is a serious operation. I assure you.
When Frank and you used to interview me 5-6 years ago, I was really just hoping for one or two players to be signed by major league teams. And to be at 45 right now, on our way to 50, perhaps by the start of next season, I mean, so far beyond my wildest dreams, Chris. And what's great is when you bring your kids to a game or grandkids, you can say, hey, you never know about that third baseman or that catcher or that pitcher on the mound. And especially our baseball cards that we do every year, they're really valuable cards. If you can get a kid that was on the Unicorns like Randy Dobnak, and now he's starting for the Twins tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, look, you want to be part of that company that says, I saw him when, and you can do that. At Jimmy John's Field. If people still want to get tickets, are they even available? I know they go like hotcakes.
We have
got a couple available?
Yes, we've got a couple hundred available for tonight. Would love to have some folks come out. And we should be sold out by tomorrow at 1 p.m. But I know last I looked, we had 250 or so. But yes, we'd love to have whoever could come out. They'll really be experiencing a treat when they come out here.
And tickets available at uspbl.com. Does that sound about right?
That's correct.
All right. Well, best of luck to you, and congratulations on everything that you've been able to accomplish this season. I know it's not been easy, but you guys have done a fantastic job. So have a great rest of championship weekend, and we look forward to talking with you again very soon, Andy.
Chris, you've always been a great friend. Thanks so much.
I appreciate you. All right, there he is, Andy Appleby out at Jimmy John's Field and championship weekend at USPBL. So make sure you get your tickets, uspbl.com. All right, more to come here on Sports Wrap. I want to take a look at what we can expect tonight. Michigan getting ready to take on Washington from the Big House. We'll also update you on a couple of other scores that are going on. Eastern Michigan getting ready to kick it 7 o'clock tonight. They're in Madison to take on Wisconsin. We got a lot to do. Oh, we got a big-time loss today, too, a top 5 loss. I'm very excited to tell you about that one. All right, more to come on Sports Wrap. Next.
This is Jeff Morton, Center Director for Pain Free Life Centers in Troy. Here's the number one thing my patients tell me. I wish I'd made Pain Free Life Centers my first choice instead of my last resort. Why? Because it works. Our FDA-cleared high-intensity, high-dose laser therapy has been getting results and changing lives right here in Metro Detroit for over a decade now. No drugs, no surgeries, no injections, and no side effects. Just real pain relief. What are you waiting for? Don't you think you owe it to yourself and your family to be free from your pain? At Pain Free Life Centers, we are here for you. It's summertime. There's so much to do, but you can't do it while you're dealing with pain. So I ask you again, what are you waiting for? We're so confident in what we do, your consultation and first treatment are free. You have nothing to lose but your pain. So stop missing out on your life. Call us right now at 248-879-1100 or visit painfreelifecenters.com.
The pandemic's reminded us we live in a sea of airborne germs that can assault us with every breath. Your nose is the body's first line of defense by helping filter out allergens, bacteria, and viruses before they reach your lungs. But like any air filter, the more clogged up it gets, the less it works. So how do you clean your nose? I'm Martin Hoke, and I didn't invent nasal irrigation. The neti pot's been around thousands of years, but I did invent Navage to make cleaning your nose easy. Navage uses powered suction to flush out mucus and germs that cause congestion or worse, can make you sick. Over 2 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier without drugs. Navage has over 70,000 online reviews averaging 4.7 stars because it works and it's easy to use. Go to Navage.com or find Navage at Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Now available with eucalyptus for a spa-like experience. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Hi, I'm Lauren. Why was it so difficult to move? Maybe my left side had just fallen asleep. I exercise, I eat healthy.
Hi, I'm Adam. At first, I was in denial. My wife, Lauren, was only 30. But I'm familiar with signs of stroke, and no, symptoms aren't always easy to recognize. I quickly realized that something was very wrong. Lauren's speech was slurred, and her face was drooping. She was having a stroke, and I had to react immediately.
I'm so thankful Adam called 911 and I quickly received the medical attention that I needed. Now I don't take anything for granted, especially the time I get to spend with my family. Going through this experience has given me a new appreciation for life.
Looking back, I'm so grateful I didn't hesitate to call 911. A quick reaction can make all the difference. Learn signs of stroke and call 911 immediately if something seems off with someone you love. Visit strokeawareness.com.
Sponsored by Genentech and NAEMT.
How you doing? This is Steve Courtney inviting you to join me and Local 4's Jamie Edmonds for a little something we call The Sports Book. Monday nights from 7 to 8, presented by WynnBET. You can download the WynnBET app today on the Apple Store or Google Play. Win with WynnBET.
If you're like most people, you're probably more than a little concerned about the state of the world around us today. Strange times. The stock market all-time highs every day. U.S. debt never been higher right now. Dollars losing value. And let's not forget about inflation, the highest since 2008. Remember what happened in 2008. So how do you protect your money, your retirement, your savings? Well, many people, just like you, are turning to Old Faithful to protect themselves during these difficult times. And Old Faithful is real gold and silver from the Oxford Gold Group, the kind you can actually hold in your hands and have in your IRA. No better time than the present to protect your future and the future of your family. Call the Oxford Gold Group right now, 833-928-GOLD. They will send you their free guide on investing in gold and silver and answer all of your questions. Protect your money before things get even worse out there. Call the Oxford Gold Group today at 833-928-GOLD. Oxford is here to help you protect your savings and retirement. That's 833-928-GOLD.
Now back to more Sports Wrap. Presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sports app today. FanDuel, more ways to win. Here's Chris Renwick.
By the way, if you want to weigh in on the Spartan game, you want to talk about sports post 9/11, and if you want to talk about Michigan coming up, here in the next hour and 15 minutes. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR is the number for you to call. We are also live on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. So if you want to weigh in with a comment there, you're more than welcome to. All right. So a couple of things. I want to start off with a big injury. Haynes King, who is the Texas A&M quarterback for the number 5 ranked Aggies, suffered a lower right leg injury in the first quarter today against Colorado. Aggies are they're at Colorado. They have just taken the lead. 10-7 with 2:41 to go in the game. They had been trailing 7-3 for quite some time. So Texas A&M looking to hold on with just under 2:45 to go and just escape by the skin of their teeth. But obviously, when your starting quarterback goes down, things don't quite click as they normally should. How about, did you see how long Notre Dame let Toledo stick around for? My goodness. I don't know what happened there. But I would submit that Notre Dame shouldn't be letting Toledo hang around. Now, I will say this. Toledo's got some guys. They got some guys. Now, I don't know that they should have dropped 29 on Notre Dame. They lost 32-29. I don't know if that's the case. But they were leading Notre Dame for a portion of that game. So, number 8 Notre Dame escapes with a win at home. And then you've got the Oregon Ducks traveling across the country, heading on into Columbus, Ohio. I think the spread was, I got to find it because I have it written down because it was pretty remarkable. I think the Buckeyes were favored by 14 and a hook. 14 and a hook. Oregon wins that game 35-28. Number 12 takes down a number 3. Look, here's the deal with that. Is Oregon was playing out without arguably their 2 best defensive players. Kayvon Thibodeau and Justin Flo both out. They both didn't play today. Thibodeau was the defensive end, and Flo was their linebacker. That's a big loss for a team coming in that is getting 14.5 points. That's incredible. So the Buckeyes lose. It's their first regular season loss in almost 3 years. There's something about this Buckeyes team that I think is a little off, and I think it's on defense. But at one point, heck, there was like 8 minutes to go. Ohio State was down 14. And C.J. Stroud got them back in the game. They were down by 7, but they just couldn't get back in it. So Ohio State loses today. Now, Michigan, Washington coming up 8 o'clock tonight. And here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see who is going to step up on the outside. Who is going to be that receiver or receivers that are going to step in and fill this void, at least in production, left by Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell out for the year. Injured his right leg last week in the opener against Western. And so I want to see who steps up there. I want to see who steps up. And I'll even take it a step further. Because I don't know that they've got a guy. I don't know if they've got 2 guys that are going to be able to fill that production. But I think somebody whose role expands a little further is Blake Quorum, their second running back, essentially. Now, he's a guy that he's got speed. He's incredibly durable. It's just something that I see as somebody who could at least fill a void from a playmaking standpoint. Now, I don't know how they're intending to use him going forward. But if none of these, if these receivers aren't stepping up in that way, that's an option. But I think it's also going to be interesting how Cade McNamara reacts tonight against a pretty good team. It's going to be a raucous home crowd at home. I think it's been confirmed that Michigan's going all blue tonight, which is something I've been calling for I don't even know how long. I've wanted the blue jersey with the blue pants for I can't even tell you how long, Jason. So I'm very excited about this tonight.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to that as well.
So it's a maze out tonight. So everybody in the crowd should be in maze. You got the all blues on the field. I think it's going to be a good look.
And I think tonight is going to be one of those defensive struggle dogfights. Washington has a top defense. Of course, they were shocked last week. Michigan I think Michigan's going to have a little bit more emphasis now on defense. I think tonight could be one of those backyard brawls, a low scoring game.
Well, here's the deal. Offensively, Wisconsin, Washington is pretty. They were not good last week. I think they rank 111th as we stand now on offense. They got a top 20 defense. Again, you're basing this on one game. So what went wrong last week against Montana? Well, we're going to see. We'll see if Washington, if last week was just a slow roll, getting the wheels going here in 2021, or if they're just no good. But Michigan is a top 15 offense, and I think they were ranked inside the top 50 on defense. So yeah, you're right. It's possible that this could turn into here's what we don't need. And I don't need this for Michigan State either. You don't need a big time stage and to have like a 17-14 stinker. That's not what anybody wants. We don't need that. Defensively, I've got serious questions about Michigan. I've got serious questions about the Wolverines on defense. I think, I think especially on the outside, Vincent Gray, Green, those guys, Gray got exposed a little bit early last week. I thought he bounced back nicely. Jamon Green, he had the same form he had last year, and it wasn't very good. Spoiler alert. So I think they've got problems on the outside. I'll continue to wait until maybe the end of the game tonight to see and maybe pass some judgment. But I think defensively also up front, they're in a lot of trouble. I don't think that showing from what they or looking from what they shown from that week 1 game, I just didn't see what I wanted to see. I don't think they are able to get enough push. I don't think they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage very often on defense. And I don't know that they're going to be able to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback outside of somebody like Aiden Hutchinson on that defensive line. So when you have corners that perhaps aren't, you're not Jordan Lewis, right? And so when you don't have corners that are borderline lockdown corners and you don't get a pass rush from your front four, you could struggle. Now, new defensive scheme still. Last week was the first game. The old adage is you make the most progress from week 1 to week 2. I'm ready to see that now. Maybe we just didn't see enough last week. Maybe they just kind of held back. I don't know. But I think that there are serious questions along that defensive front. I think the linebackers are pretty good. Dax Hill on the back end, I really like. I think he'll be just fine. But again, when you start talking about getting pressure with 4 guys, it's pretty important. That's when your blitzes, your stunts, all of that can be effective. But I didn't see that last week for Michigan. So I'm interested. The areas I'm looking forward to most tonight is specifically on the outside in that defensive front, and who is going to step up for Ronnie Bell? Who's going to step up and be that guy? Ronnie Bell will continue to be the leader that he is. He will continue to be that leader from the sideline. That's already been announced. But on the field, you're going to need somebody who you can rely on, who's got a little bit of speed, can get some separation, and make a man miss. So I'm very interested to see who that's going to be, because I think they've got players in that wide receivers room. I think they've got guys. Some of them are young, some of them are unproven, and so that's what we got to see tonight. And on top of all of this, to see the progression of Cade Mcnamara, who has a couple of starts under his belt now, obviously with the COVID shortened last season and into this year, he's got a couple of starts. But now, as the guy, as the leader, as the QB1, I want to see this next progression. I want to see this next step tonight, especially against a pretty decent defense. So we'll see how it goes. These are my thoughts for the Michigan game. That's what I want you to keep your eyes on. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. We're going to talk some football tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be on after the Lions game, so we'll break that down. Jason, see, I didn't bring up the Cowboys tonight. Do you see I didn't do that?
I appreciate it.
I won't do it. I won't do it. Maybe tomorrow. That's going to do it for us tonight. All right, see you tomorrow right here on WJR, 6 o'clock. I will see you then.
The great outdoors.
All right, everybody. Thank you. That's going to do it. We'll see you back here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.